From courtside with the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, episode number 416. I am Andrew, with you as always, and with me as always is Derek, aka D for 3.
No, I'm happy to be here. Andrew, we finally got the NBA Live 2001 guys, Nate and Roger, on Parsec. Nate reached out to me on Twitter with a screenshot showing me that he added me as a friend on Parsec. Obviously, I was immediately excited because I've been trying to get them on Parsec for quite a while, so I added him immediately. And then that day, we played 3 games, actually. We played NBA Live 2008 for PS3, and he had never, I think it had been a while since he had played that, and we played about a half, and then we switched games. He used Cleveland, and I used the Golden State Warriors, and we actually put out some pretty good highlights. That game is pretty fun head-to-head. It's definitely more fun head-to-head than it is against the computer, which is basically the case with most games, if we're being honest. And we played a game of NBA Live 2004 with me being the Sacramento Kings and him using the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it was a fantastic game. Kevin Garnett and Chris Webber going at it, going back and forth, blocking each other, dunking on each other, etc. It was a blast. And then, of course, we had to play a game of NBA Live 2001.
Well, of course. And, I mean, that was the whole point of getting them on Parsec, was it not? To be able to test that out and hopefully one day do 2v2 on 2001. But I was surprised to see you play 08 because I know you're not a huge fan of 08.
I'm warming up to it, especially in the head-to-head format.
Right.
Like I said, head-to-head format, whether it be local play or a game over Parsec, which is like local play, head-to-head can, change the way you look at a game. It can make a game just boring, blah, I want to shut it off. It can turn it from that to I'm having a blast, or I want to keep playing this, or this is super competitive and we have to finish this game. It can completely change the way you look at the game. But we played NBA Live 2001. I used the Celtics. He used the Cavaliers. And it was a great game. He did end up beating me like I thought he would. They spend so much time on that game. And he's very smart the way he plays. That video is up on the NLSC YouTube. He killed me inside, mostly on the boards. Big Z was 9 for 10 from the field. Chris Mim killed me inside, etc. He was hitting threes with Lamont Murray. He just played a very smart game. I was in it until the end. I think he ended up winning by 8 or 10. But it was just really cool to get on there on Parsec and play with those guys because we've had them on the show. We've been, watching their highlights and, talking to them on social media for a long time now. And it worked absolutely awesome for Nate. He was able to play like he was playing with Roger. And yeah, I'm really happy we got them on the application.
I'm just surprised to see somebody dominating inside in 2001 that's not Marcus Fizer. I mean, the great Marcus effing Fizer is the legend of NBA Live 2001. Really cool to see those highlights. Really looking forward to getting on the sticks with you against the two of them. But I'm so glad they did actually get into Parsec because, I mean, we've been talking about it for months now, how much fun we've been having. We've been encouraging everybody to give it a go. And as far as 08 is concerned, you're right. When you try a different mode or when you try playing against somebody instead of against the CPU, it can really change a game. And this is why we go back to these old games in our collection. And I took a photo of my collection this past week, which I need to post on Twitter and may do by the time you're listening to this, that shows just how huge my collection is. But it's why we go back to these games and give them a second chance and try them out a different mode or head-to-head as we've been doing. And, some of them, they hold up a little bit better than we thought.
Yeah, as far as Live 2001, really quick, as far as Marcus Fizer goes, you can't really use Chris Mim and Zydrunas Ilgauskas like Marcus Fizer. Right? What you have to do with them is you basically just, shoot half hooks over the defense. I was helpless to both of them, and we played on Superstar, but I was just completely helpless to both of them. Or you just dominate the offensive glass and you throw it down and you get offensive rebounds. He did such a good job of that. I didn't time my boards right with Tony Battie and Antoine Walker and whatnot, and he took advantage. Walter McCarty had a poor game, very poor shooting game, which is not normal I did hit a 3 with him and a couple outside shots. And I believe I might have had a layup with him as well, but not the normal performance from McCarty. Maybe it was nerves from playing against the NBA Live 2001 legends.
A lot of pressure.
Who knows? A lot of pressure. But we'll definitely have to play again because it was still a competitive game, and it was a really good time. I had to make sure, though, that I beat him on NBA Live 2004, right? Like, I couldn't lose twice in a row. And Live 2004, I probably revisited more recently than he did. He was very, very good competition on NBA Live 2004. I thought he played incredibly well, and those two teams are a very good matchup in that game, the Timberwolves and the Kings. They were both outstanding at that time. Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving how into Parsec and this style of gameplay everybody is in. Like, they're all just really into it. Parsec is working great for pretty much everybody. And Nate said after our last game, he said, now Roger and I can play in the NLSC tournaments. So that's cool as well. Like, if they want to jump into the March Madness tournament that we're going to run, or any tournaments later in the year, or maybe we do an NBA Live 2001 tournament, they can jump in and have a blast.
I was going to say, we'll have to do a 2001 tournament now. If they're going to be in it, it's going to be the big dogs in that particular tournament. You mentioned 2001 and 2004, and both great games in their own right. I would rank 2004 higher because, of course, you have the right stick dribbling that came in 2003. You've got the first iteration of Dynasty mode, a lot of other. You've got the 10-man freestyle. You've got those better 2-man animations. And to that point, around that time, 2004, so games that came out in kind of the early to mid-2000s were starting to get some proper physics in there. And you were talking about trying to guard him playing on ball, which is the done thing. That is the sporting thing to do when you're playing head-to-head competitive play, is to guard on ball. Don't just let the CPU do it and hang back and guard the paint. But it is a lot harder to do in those earlier games because you don't have that physicality. You can't bump the ball handler as you can. It's harder to stay with them. So, but I thought you did a great job of doing that, especially considering how good he is at the game. But that is tough playing on ball in those older games.
I have a pride issue with defense. I feel like I always want to try to take on the ball handler, whether they're out on the perimeter or they're in the post, or they're in the mid range. I'll try to pressure full court if I have to on ball, etc. I have this unbelievable pride issue with always trying to guard the ball. So he definitely took advantage of that. And he told me that in the chat. He said that he's been kind of trained on that game to attack the human, especially in the paint. So like when I was using Batee, or I was using McCarty, or I was using Antoine Walker, and I was in the paint or trying to guard him in the face up in the mid range, he would take it right to me and it burned me. So you're right. I don't think the mechanics work as well for on-ball defense, especially in those older games. And I have to put my pride aside and I have to start guarding, using players a little bit more off-ball if I'm going to compete a little bit better the next time that I play him. On the other hand, I feel like NBA Live 2004, I'm able to guard the ball a little bit better, especially inside. If you noticed, I had him miss a couple baskets with Kevin Garnett with Chris Webber by putting my hands straight up or like bumping him off the spot, etc. And I think that NBA Live 2004, physics-wise, is better for that on-ball defense control than NBA Live 2001. As far as Live 08, too, I want to point something out. Live 08, if you can get past the clunky, robotic animations that kind of plague that game, not as much as they do on NBA Live 07. It's definitely an improvement from Live 07 by a lot. But they're still in there. If you can get by that and the look of that, I think the game can sometimes be incredibly fun in a head-to-head environment. Passes are snappy. There's, as far as shooting doesn't feel terrible in that game. It feels pretty good overall to, try to get out on the break and, have like a dynamic finish at the hoop, etc. Overall, NBA Live 08 has some decent mechanics that are pretty fun on the sticks, including playing defense, like getting block shots is fun on that game. Steals aren't bad. But yeah, I'm not going to throw on NBA Live 08 and like have a long session against the computer. However, if you reached out to me, or Nate reached out to me, or somebody else did, and they said, "Hey, want to play a full game of NBA Live 08?" I would say yes.
Well, you touched on it right there, that Live 07 was such a big hole to dig themselves out of, that it's still, with all the improvements they made to 08, it's still a lot of issues there, and they were still losing ground to 2K. But it is a major improvement, one of the biggest jumps, especially from such a rough title of what Live 07 was. And they brought in the quick strike dribbling that year, where the faster you move the stick, the faster you perform dribbling moves. So that was taken from, and breaking out of the animations as well as part of that system, and that was taken from NBA Street Home Court. So you can definitely tell the different feel of that game, and I still love that, the Steve Smith fake spin, the fake half spin in 08 by holding the right stick up. That's one of my favorite moves. I've been obsessed with that since I played the game at the community event in 2007. Lots of great memories of that community event because, of course, they took us to the draft that year, the 2007 draft, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, they had a long way to come back from 07.
NBA Live 08 also has that amazing hesitation dribble.
Yeah, they really paid a lot of attention to dribbling that year.
Yeah, it's enjoyable overall on the sticks, and obviously I still prefer that dribbling over the 2K bumper ISO motion that they had at that time. Also, I want to point out, Andrew and I did connect on NBA Live 2001 as well, and we played using the 90s All-Stars. Andrew hosted, and we played against the 70s All-Stars. And if you remember correctly, we talked on the last podcast about how we, really took it to the computer on Rookie. Like we beat them up. I think we won that game in short minutes by like 30 points. But we were like, all right, we have to up this difficulty and see how we do. And we put it on starter for 2 games. And then we played on All-Star for the 3rd game. And not only were the scores almost identical in every single one of the games, which was really mind-blowing, but we also won every game, including the first game on All-Star when we were teamed up. And I thought that session was just a ton of fun, like trying to figure out the computer, trying to find ways to win, and each game being really close.
Well, we had some pretty good highlights. That pass you had and the dunk I had with Kemp. I do really like the dunks in 2001, as I've said so many times before. They had some really nice dunks that year. And, of course, the blocks. And there was a great block we had there, a clutch defensive play down the stretch. And yeah, just the scores being the same, or virtually the same. Actually, weren't the first 2 games the exact same score?
No, so the first 2 games were 36-34. And then when we put it on All-Star in that double overtime game, it ended up being 35-33.
Like, you can't script that.
One game was won with a Jordan jumper, a game winner. You hit a jumper with Jordan, and it won the game.
And that's what made it so satisfying. That the Kemp dunk, some of the other moves we were making, the defensive stops, that getting out on the break. 2001, as I've said on a recent show, possibly last week, I'm really starting to change my mind on it, because it was that controversial release when it came out on PC. The PC release came out later, of course, which we were miffed about back in the day. We were promised a patch that never eventuated because they had a smaller team, and that smaller team led to 2002 being a console-only release because they didn't have enough of a team to work on the PC port the following year. But yeah, I'm starting to change my mind. Live 2001 it's a lot more fun than I remember it being.
Well, I mentioned this on Twitter, too, and another really nice touch, that they're not even duplicating in games that are made today. We were playing the 70s All-Stars, and we put them at home. And what was missing in that game? The three-point line. There was no three-point line. So you have the added challenge of playing against the 70s All-Stars with no three-pointers. And I think that could also hurt you if you're using the 90s team, because Reggie Miller doesn't become as useful, right? Like, you have certain players that don't become as useful who could be out there getting you 3 points instead of 2 points in certain situations. So I love that added touch that they did back then. And it's crazy that, you have NBA Live 19 as the last live game, and then you have NBA 2K22 as the most recent 2K game, and neither one of those games produced a team like the classic teams or anything like that, or the retro content or any of the challenges with no 3-point line. So I thought that was a really nice touch.
it's something that stands out about the 50s, 60s, and 70s All-Stars in the older live games. And yes, to that point, 2K12, the only game that I can remember in the last decade or so that represented that, but only in NBA's greatest games. If you use those teams outside of NBA's greatest, just in Play Now or whatever, the three-point line was back and three-pointers were in effect. So they did it for that mode, but only within that mode. So it is clearly possible from a game that's much, much older to program a court that has no three-point line. Obviously, we can remove the three-point line with modding. We can mod the textures out, I imagine. But to actually not recognize the three-pointer, that's something they were doing right back in NBA Live 2000, from the 70s All-Stars in Live 2000, if I recall correctly. Don't have the three-point line, and it's not in effect, so we were able to use the courts to make other retro mods. And again, just can't be done today, and it's a shame.
Side note, about, I don't know, maybe 100 episodes ago, I mentioned how cool it would be to have the ABA represented in NBA 2K or in just like a basketball gaming title in general. And the cool thing about the ABA is they actually had a three-point line at a slightly different distance. So they wouldn't have to add any extra programming in order to have those ABA teams in there. Maybe they'd have to allow you to have like different rules for the league, etc. But overall, it would be pretty awesome if a basketball title took on some ABA content, because I would play the hell out of that content.
And that's the thing. ABA was, I mean, it was done 8 years before you and I were born, but it's just such a big part of NBA history, of basketball history. You know what it brought to the NBA. I think it was Doug Moe, who of course was with the Nuggets in both the ABA and the NBA, has talked about how at one point the NBA was, even though it was the bigger league, it was looked on as the boring league, whereas the ABA was the exciting league, and some of that play came to the NBA when they merged. And of course, you ended up with the 3-point line, and 4 teams naturally joined the NBA from the ABA. So it is such a big part of the league's history, and it never really has been represented in games. You've got some of the retro jerseys in there, and players that were part of the originally part of the ABA, like a Julius Erving or George Gervin and whatnot. But that's still NBA oriented. They became stars in the NBA as well. So yeah, I would love to see ABA mods, obviously, and March Modness is right around the corner, so there's a project just to throw it out there. But officially in the games, I'd love to see more ABA representation. Be really cool.
Fun fact, 76-77, the first NBA season after the ABA-NBA merger, 10 of the players that came over from the ABA were All-Stars. That's wild. So that shows you how good the ABA was, because in the first year of the merger, 10 of those ABA players were NBA All-Stars. So I would love that content in the game. But you mentioned March Madness and March Modness and whatnot. Some exciting times actually coming ahead on the NLSC, including another Parsec NLSC tournament, either with College Hoops 2K8 or NCAA Basketball 09, and then the yearly modding competition.
That's right. We have the competition every year. We give away a PC copy of NBA 2K, the upcoming NBA 2K game. Originally, it was conceived as you get to choose between 2K and Live, but that's kind of gone by the wayside these past couple of years. In fact, I don't think we've ever been able to give away a copy of NBA Live. I think even the first one, maybe the first one was 2018, so we would have had Live 19. But in any case, it's a copy of 2K PC. That's what we've changed it to, because that's the game we know that's coming out every year. But that's always great to see. Please get in on that. It's free to enter. The only caveat really is that you have to upload to the download section, which we encourage everybody to do anyway, because it is a way to preserve mods for future generations. But of course, I will be posting all the rules and conditions of that competition on March 1st, so in a couple of days' time from when we're recording this. But as always, on top of the competition, it's a month to celebrate modding, and I'm sure we'll be talking about some modding topics on the podcast, and I'll see what I can do as far as some mods, because I've always got those ideas, Derek, but it's just about finding time, which is always how it goes with modding.
Right, we have our NBA Live 96 all-time teams project as well that I need to get back into making portraits for. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of my time has just been spent playing the games, connecting on the games, playing the NBA Jam on Fire Edition tournament, reaching out to you so we can play, sending you videos to upload to the NLSC channel, whether it be, Nate and I connecting and playing Live 2001 or the Live 2004 gameplay video or the On Fire Edition games, etc. So my time has really been spent playing the games as much as possible and then, making the gameplay videos. But yeah, there are a lot of mods that are still being created and released over on the NLSC. Just amazing work from a Cyberface standpoint and even from a retro roster standpoint. Like I said, I tried Tony's 96-97 roster, and I thought it was absolutely excellent, the one for NBA 2K22. The NBA 2K14 modding section is still incredibly active, and so is the 2K13 section. So it's nice to see that people are still modding those, those older games, and, they're still tending to the newest one.
Well, of course, SCO just released a new version of UR Basketball for 2K13 and 2K14. Actually, a highlight, Manny Live submitted a highlight using that mod for the All-Star weekend in this week's top 10.
Yeah, John Morant on the fast break for a dunk from NBA 2K14 PC from the URB. And then we had another All-Star highlight actually in the top 10, which was a blocked layup. So John Morant, again, blocking Steph Curry at the rim, and that was submitted by the Live King. And then Andre Jamal, 79, submitted a NBA 2K22 next-gen LeBron James poster dunk from the All-Star game. So a lot of things done with mods and a lot of things done with default game assets that are, making that NLSC top 10 plays of the week. I thought it was another strong week, and it was really enjoyable to put it together.
I love the reactions that you've been getting for the top 10. Everyone just, as we said before, so into it, no ill will with placing or anything like that. Everyone just enjoying the highlights and seeing their highlights make it into the top 10. I had another one in there this week. Probably one of my favourite moments. In fact, no probably about it. One of my favourite moments from my career in 2K14, PlayStation 4, which I am playing on PlayStation 5 for convenience, that alley-oop, the 360 alley-oop to Thaddeus Young, just was not expecting that at all. That just came out of nowhere.
That's a jump out of your seat play right there, because I've played, I spent a lot of time with NBA 2K14 for Xbox One. I've never seen that alley-oop animation. I've never seen that smooth catch the lob with one hand and do a full 360 and throw it down, and his head being basically at the rim. That is a unbelievable highlight. I thought it was great. So I was really glad to see that you submitted that. I was able to clean it up a little bit and make it 60 FPS and whatnot. But yeah, you must have been thrilled when that got thrown down, and you must have been getting ready to upload that and send it to me right away.
Oh, I knew that's a top 10 submission right there. Like in our sessions, top 10. That was what I was thinking to myself when I saw that. I'd never seen it before. I put the J.R. Smith 360 alley-oop commentary behind it, which was really fun to do. Still really enjoying finding commentary and putting that to highlights that have no audio. But yeah, I'm seeing some of those animations that I haven't seen before in 2K14, and I'm starting to wonder. I've always downplayed that EcoMotion engine, but it's the more I play 2K14, I think they were really onto something with that.
Maybe it's adaptive, and it's like, you know what? Andrew hasn't seen this animation before. We're going to give him this one now. But no, it's absolutely crazy how NBA 2K14 can still show you so many animations that you don't see in NBA 2K22. You know what I mean? Like really nice animations. Like I haven't seen that catch and finish on an alley-oop in NBA 2K22. And my brother and I have gone through a full season, 12-minute quarters on NBA 2K22, and we just hit the conference finals. So, yeah, it's wild how many good animations are in NBA 2K14. And if you go back and you play games like NBA 2K9, NBA 2K10, NBA 2K8, you still see so many just smooth, exciting, get out of your seat animations. Remember the NBA 2K9 gameplay that I uploaded and to Twitter, and I talked to you about that Julius Erving potential top 10 play where he attacks the rim and he turns his back on the hoop and flips it up over his head and it went in. It was like a basket and foul. It's like, I haven't seen an animation in NBA 2K22 that looks exactly like that animation from 2K9, and that's just fantastic. So that's another reason why I like going back and playing some of those older games, the 2K14s, the 2K8s, the 2K9s, etc., because you'll still see stuff in those games that you don't see today. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. And when those unique animations play out, or a unique situation where you get hit hard and flip it up at the basket like that and make a crazy shot for the and one, those are the moments in basketball gaming, because they're true to life.
Yeah, you said it before. When it happens and it looks like something that player could actually do or would do, etc., that just adds to the moment. It just adds to the authenticity. It adds to the enjoyable experience. And at Sweet Jones _OTF made a great comment on the top 10 after I posted it on Twitter. He said, I just love seeing people playing these games and like having fun with them. And that's what it's all about. That's why we do what we do on the NLSC, right? That's why we're promoting Parsec. That's why we're uploading all the gameplay videos that we possibly can, because it's enjoyable to play these games, but it's also super enjoyable to watch people have fun with them.
Oh, definitely. I mean, watching other people play has become a big part of gaming culture, obviously, and clearly people like doing it with basketball games as well. But even just short clips and highlights and the countdowns like the top 10, people are loving it, and I love to see that. We also got an interesting suggestion to do a retro countdown of just games from the 90s or early 2000s.
That would be tough, because you and I love it. Stildo33 loves it. There's obviously more people, there's other people in the community that love it, but it's not that common for somebody to say, hey, let's pick up NBA Live 95, right?
True.
Let's play NBA Live 98. Let's pick up Double Dribble, like stuff like that. Like, I think that is super niche, and I would love to do something like that under his suggestion. But I think that more than likely it would need to be, in order to get enough highlights each week, people would have to be playing some of the newer games, but with mods. And Stildo actually brought that up. So, like he was talking about, on 2K19, we're finishing the 94-95 mod. So we could get highlights from the 94-95 season in there. So it's still technically 90s, but it's from 2K19. So that's a good way to look at it, to, I don't know, not to get around lack of highlights, but a good way to promote that era, but, get more highlights overall.
It's more feasible to do a modded current game or recent game, for sure. I think we'd have to put the call out to retro gamers. Okay, we're doing a retro week. Send us your retro highlights.
Right, 100%. Oh, I did want to bring up something before I forget. I want to thank everybody, as do you, who tuned in to my NBA Jam on Fire edition stream. So I hadn't streamed in about 3 years. And I jumped on and I was like, you know what? I bought this headset. Andrew and I have been wanting to stream and gauge interest in streams, etc. So, I jumped on, I reached out to you. I said, hey, do you want to play some NBA Jam on Fire edition, and I'll stream it? And I had my mic on. We streamed 3 games of NBA Jam on Fire edition. We did a full challenge, bronze, silver, and gold. We won every game. And immediately once I started the stream, I had people in the chat. And I'm going to be honest with you, that actually made my day. It felt great. And when I sent you the video after it was done and you could see the live chat, you said to me too, you were like, wow, I love that reception. So thank you so much. It actually made me motivated and super interested in streaming some more. So chances are you'll probably see me streaming more Parsec connections this coming week, actually, whether it be Street Volume 2, NBA Jam on Fire edition with Andrew, maybe some NBA Live 10 or something, maybe one of the newer games. So, yeah, thank you again for tuning into the stream.
No, it was definitely a lot of fun. Loved seeing the reception to it in the comments afterwards when you sent me the link to the stream and watching that live chat replay back. Next time, looking forward to be mic'd up. That'll make it even more fun. We'll tweet that out from the official NLSC accounts, of course, so that as many people can join in as possible, because everyone had a blast watching that. Clearly, if you go back and look at the comments from that live chat, we had a lot of fun, as we always do, on the Parsec sessions. So yeah, stay tuned for more of that, more of those streams.
Yeah, I mean, there was comments in there just talking about how they love that game, right? And they were also echoing what we said. They were saying, like, this game is just so much fun to play with a friend. Thundershack came on there and he made a comment along the lines of, when you're playing those gold challenges, it's definitely better when you're playing, and you can be more successful when you're playing with another human being. And it's just awesome that we can do that and connect to my Xbox One and play Xbox One games together like we are. We're, just so people know, we're playing the entire road trip, Andrew and I, connecting to my Xbox One. So thanks again. You'll see more streams from me soon, and maybe just a couple this week as well.
Getting back to the top 10 for a moment, there was a clutch play from Stildo in there, and of course that came from the NBA Jam on Fire Edition tournament, which has wrapped up. You won that tournament, so congratulations to you. Congratulations to Stildo for making it to the finals. Hats off to everybody who competed in that tournament. Another successful tournament. It's just going to get better and better and more fun from here on out. But what a tournament and what a final series. So any thoughts on the on that? Any gloating since you won?
So what's with people beating me with buzzer beaters in this tournament? So Tecmo Bowl took me out with a Magic Johnson finger roll in one game. For our series, and Stildo 33 in game 5 of the finals, with his back against the wall down 3-1 in the series, hits a double teamed 3-pointer with Larry Bird to win the game. He was only down 2. He could have thrown that alley-oop to Kevin Garnett, but no, he said, you know what, I'm going to put it right in Derek's face. We're not going to overtime. He's down. He's gonna lose right now. So he hits this 3 with Larry Bird, sends it to a game 6. I'm sweating on the couch. I just want to let you know, like, playing this game. And he made the right decision to take Ray Allen out of the lineup early in the series and put in Kevin Garnett to pair him with Larry Bird. And that was a game changer because then he was able to be more physical and match up with Bill Walton. His defense got instantly better, and he started relying more on Bird for shooting, which is what he should have been doing earlier on. So I was sweating. I was like, I can't do what 707 did and let him come back from 3-0 and win in 7 games. Like, I just can't let it happen. I pulled out game 6 by, I want to say, like 5 points or something like that. Every game of the series was incredibly close. He's excellent at the game. It was an amazing series. He hosted the entire series. So just so people know, Stildo 33 and I were on the phone for the entire series. So we both had each other on speakerphone. And 2 things stand out as from the finals. One, when he hit that Larry Bird 3, the level of screaming from him was out of this world. I thought I was going to break my phone. He was screaming like victory, basically, just like yelling. And I'm just like saying to him over and over again, I can't believe that just happened. It was literally like we were in the room together, except he wasn't able to punch my shoulder. And then he talked about this after, and I thought this was hilarious. So game 6 comes around. I'm up 3-2. I'm sweating bullets on my end. I'm like, I can't let him win this game. The entire second half, after being incredibly chatty and competitive and trash talking for all the rest of the time in the series, we didn't say one word to each other, I don't think, in the second half of game 6. It was that competitive. It was pure silence, pure going at each other. And you can watch all of those games. They're uploaded to the NLSC YouTube. Unfortunately, we weren't like mic'd up, so you can't hear us talking, but you could probably see the intensity going by how the gameplay was going. We played it on the hard level, so on the hardest level in the game, and which was a good choice. I thought it made it for actually a super competitive series. But, hats off to everybody in the tournament. While I am glad I won, I'm glad that the games were super competitive and everybody just had a really, really good time, playing in the tournament.
Really competitive games throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it went full 7 games with 707 and Stildo 33. It went 5 games in the first round, so the distance with Tecmo Bowl and QB 1120Q in the forums. Tecmo Bowl, while I did win that series in 5 games, every game but one was super close. He's fantastic at NBA Jam on Fire Edition. It was just competitive. It was fun. no sore losers, but they did want to win and they were playing to win. And it just produced so many great highlights that not only have been entered into the NLSC top 10 in various weeks, but it also gave great YouTube content to the NLSC channel. And then people were able to enjoy that experience with us because every single game of the tournament was uploaded to the NLSC YouTube. So you guys can go look at that playlist when you get the chance.
Definitely do that, because On Fire Edition is such a fun game to play, such a fun game to watch. You and I back on the road trip. Even after playing through the entire tournament, you can't get enough of On Fire Edition, which is only stands to reason, because it's a fantastic game.
I reached out to Andrew, not only for the stream, but separately. And I was like, all right, let's just, I don't have a lot of time, but let's just get a game in of the road trip. And we played one game. So one game lasts, 12 minutes?
About
12 minutes or something like that. So we literally connected for 12 or 13 minutes, played a game, and then logged off. No, I can't get enough of it because I think the gameplay is fantastic, and that road trip mode is, I think, the best possibly in basketball video game history. And I can tell when I'm into a game when months go by and I'm still like excited to put it on. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like how I still feel about NBA 2K17, NBA Jam on Fire Edition, NBA Street Volume 2, which you and I connected on as well, and I connected with the B-Ball video games. And, yeah, just an absolute blast playing with people from around the world lately. And you and I connected on NBA Street Volume 2. You were locked on Jordan. I was locked on Magic, and Bill Walton was our third player. And it was the same matchup that me and B-Ball video games played. We played against the NBA stars. Like you said after, it's like, talk about aging well. That game just aged so well. It is so fun. We had a blast in that game that we played.
It is one of those games that a lot of people mention as the best basketball game of all time. As I've said before, that's a difficult claim to make because when you go between the sim and arcade genre, people want different things. So, and of course, there have been some other fantastic games as well. But look, I can't argue against that being a candidate or somebody's personal all-time favorite or their pick for the best basketball game in history because it just does hold up so well all these years later. That's almost 20 years old, that game. 2003, that came out.
And look how great the animations are. And just like button mapping, like the feel of it and everything, you going up for oops and also that double spin into a dunk you did with Jordan. That just looked absolutely amazing. Just from a graphic standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, it's not as deep as NBA Jam on Fire Edition, but the gameplay is so good you could play exhibition games on that all day. You know what I mean? Just pickup games. So, it's been absolutely great. And that kind of, revisiting all of these games had me thinking about the mailbag question this week, so like the community question, the community question, because it kind of gauges what people enjoyed the most for video games and what they are enjoying the most.
Now, once again, a lot of great responses to this week's mailbag prompt. Before we open up the mailbag to get to those responses, we're going to answer the question ourselves, which was, you will be stranded on an island indefinitely and can only bring 3 basketball video games. Which ones are you bringing and why? And you put out some rules, Derek. Internet is not available, no mods, and you can bring friends and family. So yeah, we've been pondering our answers as well. And do you have your 3? I have my 3.
I do, and it's really tough. And I have 2 for certain that I would bring. And then the third one, it's like a toss-up. So I guess I'll go first. NBA Jam on Fire Edition, I would bring. And it's not just because I'm into it in a big way right now. It's because big picture-wise, it just has a lot of replayability because of the road trip, because of the unlockable players, the unlockable teams. And just overall, the co-op and even single-player feel to the gameplay. Because remember, this NBA Jam on Fire Edition tournament wasn't co-op with somebody else. We were using the teams ourselves. And I had an absolute blast. If you want to talk about a game that can be super competitive in from a gameplay standpoint, just can be super fun, NBA Jam on Fire Edition has that. So I think we could just spend a ton of time on that game. It doesn't require you to be online to play Road Trip, to really play, all the modes in that game. So, NBA Jam on Fire Edition for certain. And before I go on to the next one, what's one of yours?
Well, I actually have On Fire Edition as well, because it is one of my all-time favorite games. I want at least one arcade game, one arcade title with me on that island. My only concern with On Fire Edition, because Road Trip is deep. It takes a while to play through, which is great. It's great depth, great longevity. But once you've finished it, and I can confirm this having finished it on Xbox 360, is that you can't replay it again. I mean, you can go back and play through you can play through everything again, but you can't sort of start a new game with a new profile and play through and unlock everything. Everything is already unlocked. But, I mean, you can still play through it again, I suppose. And, of course, you can play so many exhibitions. It's so fun to play that you could probably just play exhibitions, co-op, and competitive, especially if you've got someone else on the island with you. Obviously, I would probably take my cousin. But, yeah, I would still go with On Fire Edition because there's still enough depth there. It is unfortunate that you have to pretty much delete your save, your data, to make everything locked again. So if you wanted to play through it again from scratch, you've got to do that. But even so, you can still play through all the games again, I suppose. So, you know what? I'm going to stick with On Fire Edition because it's still got that depth, and I love that game so much.
Yeah, I mean, if you can still delete the data and start from scratch, then that's probably what I would do.
Yeah.
Like, if that's still an option, then yeah, totally. Like, so at least you can still start from scratch.
Oh, how long are we on the island for as well? Definitely, I suppose. Yeah.
We don't know. It could be a week. It could be
the rest of your life.
A month. It could be a year. It could be the rest of your life. So you're just there, Andrew. You're stuck.
Yeah. I'm deleting the data a couple of times, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, my second choice would be NBA 2K17, and the reason is because not only is it my favorite title for the Xbox One, PS4 era, but it is also the game that my brothers and I both enjoy. All of us enjoy playing the most together. And you got to remember, on this island, you can bring friends or family. So not that I would bring them against their will, like, oh, you guys have to be stranded with me. But if we end up on the, like, oh, no, you have to play basketball video games with me and come to this island. No,
what are we doing here again?
Yeah. Well, you're entertaining me. You're playing basketball video games with me. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if they ended up on the island with me somehow, that's a go-to that we would have to have. And even without mods, we would really enjoy doing fantasy drafts with the default in-game content, editing those rosters to the best we can offline, doing even drafts with the current teams, just those players, etc. We would still just create so many memories playing NBA 2K17 because we all love it that much, especially from a co-op and even head-to-head perspective. I think that's a no-brainer for me to include that on the island.
See, the funny thing is, it was going to sound like I was looking over at your exam paper, because I had 2K17 as well. And it's a game I would love to take. As you said, you don't need mods. Mods enhance the game so much, as we are well aware of in this community. But 2K17 is such a fantastic game. And I'd like to spend more time. Obviously, I wouldn't have internet, and the servers are offline anyway, so I wouldn't be playing Pro-Am, which I mostly play Pro-Am in my career in 2K17. But I'd love to get into a My League, for example. I'd be able to play the other side of the game that I haven't played as much. And if I'm on that island indefinitely, I've got plenty of time to play through it. But I will actually change my answer and say NBA 2K14 for PlayStation 4, because it has become one of my all-time favorite games, and if I'm taking it to the island, I'm guessing I already have all my saves intact as well on the console, and with this my career that's going in 2K14 at the moment, I've got this idea of playing through multiple seasons. After the second year, I'm going to be playing the key game, so simulating a bit of that season, a bit of that career to get to the Hall of Fame, to get all the statistical goals. So I'm going to take 2K14. I'm going to change my answer, and just to change things up a bit, and 2K14 with that save, because I'm going to be on that island for a while. So hey, I might actually simulate. If I'm on that island for a while, I might just play through the long way.
I got to let you guys know that there is absolutely no way in hell that Andrew would have taken NBA 2K14 PS4 a year ago.
Not at all. No.
There is absolutely no way. The amount that Andrew was warmed up to NBA 2K14 by revisiting it and playing through my career and now on season 2 and everything, I don't think I've ever seen you warm up to a game so fast like you have with this game.
06 maybe? Last year as well? NBA Live 06? Possibly?
No, still not this much. Because you put that down.
Well, there's not as much to play. Yeah, the modes aren't there.
Not as much content. Right, exactly. NBA 2K14, you've just been so into it. Just to let people know, just this morning, I think I received 6 highlights from Andrew. He was like, look at these things that are going on in my career, and I love looking at them. So I hope you never stop sending those.
I was going to say, to be fair, they're pretty good highlights. I felt.
Oh my God, they were. One of my favorite ones that you recently sent to me was a save, where your player dove out of bounds, and it was like a Larry Bird type hustle play. Or like Shaq. Remember when Shaq, the classic Orlando Magic, Shaq sliding across the floor trying to save the ball?
Oh, into the camera, yes.
Yeah, and he gets it, slides into the camera, like that type of play. And you kept it in bounds, and then you guys ended up scoring on that play. And I just thought that was such a cool animation, and everything flowed so well on that play. I really like that one.
Oh, again, it's one of those organic moments that really makes the basketball game special. The only thing that bothers me about that play is, and this is a recurring issue, unfortunately, in 2K, is that it didn't count as an assist. I mean, I saved it right to a teammate and he scored right away, but because it's not a pass animation, it didn't register an assist. And anyone who's played with me in Pro-Am or followed my career coverage knows how much I love getting assists. So to even rob me of one dime, no, not cool. Well, game, not cool.
Yeah, you're averaging about 15 a game right now in your my career. But yeah, but it should have been an assist because you had possession of the ball. Right?
Exactly.
When you saved that, you had it, like actual possession. So technically it should have been. It reminds me of the games that my brother and I get frustrated with when we're trying to play Legends. And this happens with some of the classic games. And, we'll get a block. And in the real rule in real life is if a block happens and you catch the ball, like let's say, I don't know, let's say Josh Smith blocks a shot for the Atlanta Hawks back when he was playing, and Jeff Teague runs over and picks up the ball from that block and heads down the other end of the floor. That's a rebound for Jeff Teague because he caught the block, right? So he got the possession of the ball after. But a lot of the older games, they don't do that. So my brother and I, one of our favorite ways to get rebounds when we're going for stats is to have one of us get the block and then the other person pick up the ball to get the rebound. But in a lot of the older games, they don't count those as rebounds. They just they count it as nothing. It's like a block, and then they just go down the other way.
It's a team rebound in the box scores, if they would count it.
Yeah, I don't even know if they count it as that. I just think it's nothing.
Yeah,
to be honest. So my third game, this was really tough because I got my arcade game in there. I got my 5-on-5 sim game, and I'm stuck between NBA 2K16 and NBA Street Volume 2. And I think that if I talked to my two brothers about it, so that's what would end up having to happen. If I talked to my two brothers about it, it would be it would be NBA 2K16. It's a game that all three of us finished a season on against each other. So it's definitely a game that we would be pouring in hundreds of hours on. The gameplay is different enough from 2K17 and so are the graphics, where the game still feels fresh. And you can still do the whole jersey creator in the in my league, relocate your team, all of that stuff, fantasy drafts, all that. So this is the way I will answer this. If I find out that my two brothers are coming with me to the island, I'm choosing NBA 2K16. If I find out that only one of them is coming to the island, or they're not coming at all, it's NBA Street Volume 2.
Nope, that makes a lot of sense. And those are some tremendous choices. Outstanding games, one and all. So, if you're going to be on that island indefinitely, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be Mr. Predictable here. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Let's see if you can guess. It's what do you think my third game is?
NBA Live 2006.
NBA Live 06. You got it in one. PC version. Because I have my saves still to go with that. It's one of my all-time favorite games. It is, in my opinion, the last really strong all-around release in the NBA Live series as far as gameplay and modes. Even if you're not modding, there's still a lot of things you can do within the game itself as far as create a player and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm taking 06. It's one that I can go back to this day. So I've got an NBA Live title, a Jam title, and a 2K title, ones that I all enjoy. I know that I can play over and over again, always go back to, alternate between the three of them. Yeah, Live 06, On Fire Edition, and 2K14.
I mean, I knew you were going to choose Live 06. 2K14 is the surprising one. And NBA Jam on Fire Edition, obviously not surprising. But one of the reasons why I did the no internet, no mods thing is because that's how we grew up playing these video games and creating all of those memories, right? Like me growing up playing Tecmo NBA, Super NBA Basketball, and Double Dribble, and NBA Live 95, and, NBA Showdown, and, NBA Fast Break 98, obviously, NBA Action 98 in your area, playing that offline, playing the original NBA 2K locally. Like, if you go back, if you think about our video game memories and the way we were playing these games, in the 90s and in the early 2000s, et cetera, and even, some, in the early 2010s and whatnot, we were playing them not only without mods a lot of the time, especially if you didn't have a PC version of the game, we were also not playing them online. And obviously back then we also didn't have things like roster sharing. So this is a way to kind of say, all right, what games would you enjoy the most with just their core mechanics, core gameplay, core assets in place, and give you the opportunity also to say, let's talk about a local co-op or a local head-to-head atmosphere.
Well, that's the thing. Growing up, I was mostly playing NBA Live on PC, so I actually did grow up with mods, mostly. So that is something that I grew up with. But yeah, if you have no internet, you can't just get all the assets that you want at the drop of a hat. And I suppose you can take some modding tools with you and whatever mods you've got. But I think it's a much more interesting question because mods can change things up. If I could take mods, I might take 2004 because of course then I've got my 95-96 season mod.
Right. If I'm taking mods, the chances of me taking NBA Jam on Fire Edition are very low. Right. Like if I'm allowed to take, because more than likely what I'm going to take is I'm taking NBA 2K14 for the PC because of the UBR and the URB and all the different mods and all the different customization and, it's just endless content. But that's why I thought it would be a good idea to say, hey, just the game's default assets, no internet, no mods, and also to kind of get people to think about that local play experience.
Well, people also sometimes forget, it is very easy to forget, what a game is like before you've modded it up. Because you're used to playing with all these great retro season mods or current season mods and unofficial fixes and whatnot, that you forget what the vanilla game is like. And that sometimes that vanilla game is not quite as good as after you've gotten used to using all those mods.
Right, 100%. I know that's kind of how it is. It almost looks weird to boot up 2K17 without my mods. You know what I mean? Like it's weird to boot up 2K17 and just look at a default roster or look at the default presentation because as you know, I changed like the way the menus look. I added that 2K14 blue color in there. I changed the way the edit player background is, all of that stuff. Like it feels weird booting up default teams with default courts, with the default global, all of that stuff. But at the same time, when you actually start playing the game, if you really enjoy the gameplay, you can just instantly fall in love with the game as it is. You know what I mean? So without all of those that customization. So that's like kind of how NBA 2K17 was a game, and my brother and I talk about this. He was at work. I booted it up for the first time, and I played a quick game. And I called Nick at work immediately, and I said, Nick, this game is absolutely amazing. You have to get home so we can play this. That was my first reaction to NBA 2K17. I think it was one of the best launches that they've ever had as far as gameplay out of the box or like right at the start. And it just felt good instantly. I remember that first night us playing it. I believe we didn't get like any sleep. We were just playing the game all night long. And that's why 2K17 was a clear cut choice too for the island.
Oh, I'm right with you on that. I mean, I would have liked to have taken it myself, but 2K14 has kind of entered my heart and has captured my heart in recent months. Although I was playing 2K17, sending you those all-time college teams highlights for a while. That was fun to go back and play with those. 3 games is not a lot. So that's the challenging part of it as well. That even if you want to say bring mods and you've got internet and whatnot, to only have access to 3 games, even 5 games, even 10 games. You and I, we love basketball games so much, as so many people in our community do, that to just narrow it down, to not, especially when you have big collections like ours, that you can just dip into whatever at any time. Like if I say, hey Derek, let's play Jam It, and you'll say, no, that's crazy. Why would you want to do that, Andrew? But we could do it if we wanted to, if we were that crazy. But that's the thing, that we're used to having these big collections that we can just play anything at any time. So to just, it's really difficult to narrow it down to just 3 or 5 or even 10.
People got to understand how accepting I am of different basketball titles and how stupid I am sometimes too. I played like a full season on Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball. Not recently, but when I was younger. That's how high my tolerance is for shoddy gameplay, right? My brother Nick, he did as well. He played a full season on Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball. I spent an enormous amount of time with Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby College Basketball for Sega Genesis. So I totally understand where you're coming from there, because I have this thing where, and I said this on a past podcast, where I play these games and I love to think about the design choices they were making, right? Like why they put these certain aspects in the game. Why is the game play this way? Why does this game look the way it does? What were they thinking, etc. But then I also have this part of me that loves putting on a game and trying to use the mechanics for what they are and like master them. And I think that's what Nate and Roger love about NBA Live 2001, right? They love mastering the mechanics. Sure, some aspects of the game are primitive. Sure, it doesn't look as good graphically as some of the newer games, but it's about using the game, playing the game for what it is, and mastering those mechanics. It's absolutely a blast for me. It's why I can go back and play a game like NBA Live 96 with you and just have an absolute blast. Then play NBA Live 2004 with Nate, enjoy the hell out of the experience. Then play NBA Live 10 with like Manny Live, have a blast. Then play 2K17, and then play NBA 2K22 with my brother on the same team and have fun. It's why basketball gaming will never, ever get old, and it's why the community, no matter what you wish for or anything, you'll never get rid of me. No matter what, you're stuck with me. Because I could just play these games all day, all years, all decades.
That's right. You're with us on the island indefinitely as well. I mean, that's the problem. No internet. They can't listen to the NLSC podcast. Now that's a shame.
That is a shame. And I wish I had a solution for that. But yeah, you're stuck. You don't get to listen to the NLSC podcast. However, you've listened to so many episodes already. I mean, you have those memories. So you have to think about those.
We'll just be in a boat off the island shouting through megaphones. We'll be broadcasting you live. How about that? It's we'll just pull up. We'll just pull up every week in the boat and broadcast live to you on the island. There we go.
You won't see me wearing a cowboy hat and a backpack.
And a backpack. I was going to say, yeah.
Like they do on NBA 2K22 in the street.
I mean, if we're out there in the tropics, you got to have a big hat of some kind.
Yeah, it won't be that one.
No backpack, at least. It won't be a cowboy hat and a backpack. It's one or the other, at the very least. If you're gonna
right, exactly. And you won't see me touching foot on a basketball court. That's the other thing. I said you were on an island. I didn't say there wasn't a basketball court. So maybe you can also play like actual hoops. Who knows?
Yeah, just take a pump. Just take a couple of basketballs. Take a pump, because it's they get very boring trying to shoot around with a flat ball. But those are our picks, and the community made their picks as well. So with that being said, it is time to open up the mailbag.
To the mailman, the pump fake. What an unbelievable dunk!
So a lot of great answers, Derek, starting with Day at _D3PO on Twitter. Says NBA Shootout 97, which of course was total NBA 97 in Australia. NBA Hangtime, arcade version, because of the creative player function he mentioned specifically, and NCAA March Madness 2007, Cincinnati Bearcats, enjoying playing with them. I didn't think of any college games, but I suppose that's because I didn't really grow up with them.
Well, NBA Shootout 97, it immediately brought me back to our interview with Stildo 33, because that was the game that he had with his friend, that epic playoff series where he punched his friend in the shoulder probably 50 times and they wrestled and all that stuff. And then Matt Maloney hit like a game-winning 3 that won the championship. Like, that's what that made me think of. I did spend some time with NBA Shootout 97. It's a very loose game. It's not my favorite in the Shootout series, but it definitely has that shootout gameplay that a lot of people did enjoy. Like I said, the loose, fun gameplay. Me personally, I was still more into like NBA Live 97, and then like the next year, NBA Fast Break 98. But I can see why you would want to take NBA Shootout 97, especially if he has people to play with, because there's definitely a lot of replayability there. NBA Hang Time, somebody mentioned that it was better than NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and I can understand where somebody would say that. I think NBA Hang Time has the alley-oop feature in it.
It does,
which
yes.
I think
Team
is
Fire.
Incredibly, in Team Fire, etc. Which I believe was just incredibly well implemented. I was actually playing NBA Hang Time on PlayStation 1 with my girlfriend. She'll play video games with me from time to time, and we had an absolute blast, going up for oops, etc. The block mechanics are absolutely fantastic in that game. From a pure gameplay standpoint, I probably enjoy NBA Hang Time a little bit more than NBA Jam Tournament Edition. So I will say that I understand where he's coming from, and I understand where the other person said that is coming from. As far as like the other game, March Madness 2007, I've really warmed up recently to some of the mid-late 90s NBA Live games. But March Madness 2007 is one that I would have to revisit because I actually don't remember how much I played that back in the day. But if it's anything like NBA Live 07, I probably wouldn't want to put my hands on it because you know how I feel about NBA Live 07.
I'm guessing it's more like 06 because it was because they came out in the middle of each other. They were the March Madness games kind of had the previous NBA Live mechanics from memory, from the ones I've played anyway. So it might be more like 06. But if it's like 07, it's probably not going to really wet your whistle in that respect. I agree with Hang Time. I love that game too. One of the best games in the Jam series, and I consider it part of the Jam series because it is by Midway, and it's more of a success than NBA Jam Extreme was. I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, I was wondering if I would hurt your feeling by saying that too, by saying like NBA Hang Time over NBA Jam on Tournament Edition. But I think you can see where he's coming from and then also where I'm coming from. There's something a little bit more about the mechanics. Actually, if you think about it, NBA Hang Time is almost a baby NBA Jam on Fire Edition with the way that the mechanics work.
No, I mean, Tournament Edition has a special place in my heart, but Hang Time, I played the hell out of as well. Nintendo 64 version is the one that I played, so it may not be the strongest version. And Day is talking about the arcade version. I'm guessing the original arcade version as well, which I haven't played, to be honest. But it's I believe it is very similar to the 64 port and the PlayStation port. They did a good job of that. No, it holds up extremely well as well, and the creator player feature did change things up as well. That's just that extra wrinkle that the Tournament Edition didn't have.
Is there anything that's the best version of itself on N64? My brother and I were talking about this. I think if anything, maybe GoldenEye 007 might be the best version of a GoldenEye game. But is there really anything that's the best on N64?
Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time still holds up as one of the best in the Zelda series.
Yeah, maybe that one. Maybe that's it. I don't think that N64 was particularly a strong console.
It's one that hasn't aged as well because it's early 3D. There was a lot of the third parties went to PlayStation, went to Sony. So yeah, there's a lot of sports games that are kind of iffy because they're using that 64 controller, which look, I can use it, but that doesn't make it a greatly designed controller by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't think it has many definitive versions that aren't first party Nintendo games.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, no, good response by him. Good choices as well. And NBA Hang Time obviously stands out in his choices as one of my favorites.
And up next we have Andrew, not me. This is at Andrew the X, of course, member of the NLSC team, member of NLSC Thrillho, mentions the original NBA Jam. Obvious reasons, a classic game that has multiplayer value for even casual fans. Pretty much any of the NBA Jam lineage you can say that about, but the original is absolutely a classic. College Hoops 2K8 to play Endless Legacies when I'm on my own, and 2K11 I'd finally play through all Jordan challenges, plus a very solid and robust offline gaming experience. Also goes on to mention that his choices are based on only being allowed to take one console. Choice of the PlayStation 3, since not geo-blocked for College Hoops. If it's cross-platform, might find a way to squeeze in Live 05, but I think 2K11 does everything well except All-Star Festivities. Finally, he expects some listeners to choose NBA Live 10, assuming the pre-patch version, so a lot of happy campers. Once again, love all those choices.
Yeah, NBA 2K11 obviously stands out there. Some people still say it's the greatest basketball game ever made. A lot of replayability, with the Jordan Challenge and whatnot, and playing through seasons and everything. It just has a lot of content and a lot of fun gameplay. And if he's bringing friends, that's another game that's great to play head-to-head or on the same team. The original NBA Jam, for obvious reasons, it's a full-blown classic. Just the gameplay still holds up today. Does it have that much replayability as far as modes, content, etc.? Not really, but it doesn't matter when the gameplay is that fun. So I think that he'd be able to get plenty of play out of that. College Hoops 2K8, as I announced on Twitter, I bought it. I didn't own it. I have played it before. I think I owned it back in the day, but I didn't own it anymore. I ended up spending over $100 on getting College Hoops 2K8. Why? Because it's a very, very popular game, basketball video game, one of the most popular basketball video games of all time. And I wanted to connect with people on it, via Parsec, and also to run an NLSC tournament on it. So I did. I sucked it up. I spent a little extra money. I bought College Hoops 2K8, and I'll be able to enjoy that now with the community. You and I were talking about this recently, about the gameplay, and man, College Hoops 2K8 just really holds up well. And I would almost argue that the gameplay is even as good or better than NBA 2K8. The gameplay just suits the college games so well. The atmosphere in the game is great. Not quite as good as NCAA basketball in 2009, but still, the atmosphere is still great. But, yep, just smooth animations, fun gameplay, and I definitely don't blame him for bringing College Hoops 2K8.
And you mentioned the expense of getting that game on the collector's market. The college basketball games in general, I mean, retro gaming, the prices are rising at the moment because people are realizing again, we can make some money because people are getting into different consoles, and so the prices are going up. But yeah, because it's one of the last college games and there's only so many in circulation on the second-hand market, we are seeing some ridiculous prices. You'll see some that are easily $300 or $400 Australian dollars, which are still well over $100 US. So I know this may not necessarily be a comfort, but you actually got a pretty good price on it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not new either. It's considered good condition. I couldn't even get one that was new that would be under like $200. Pretty crazy, right?
My copy's disc only. So the one that I got doesn't even have manual or the in the front cover art or anything. But I still paid.
And how much did you?
Probably around, including postage, probably around 100 Australian. So
and what is that in US?
About 80 odd, I'd say.
Isn't that crazy? You and I are stupid. I got to tell you, we're insane.
We are.
But you know what though? The collection matters, right? Like I don't know.
To us, it brings us joy.
And I want to connect with,
it brings us joy.
Right. It brings us joy. I guess. So we're not stupid. I guess we're just passionate, right?
Exactly.
About it.
We're insane in the best possible way. We say that with affection towards ourselves.
I want people to experience those gameplay videos, be able to participate in the tournaments, and then also, be able to connect on Parsec, and I get to enjoy them enjoying the game, right? Like, that does it for me. Being able to connect with somebody on Parsec and either watch two people play and just really having a blast playing that game, getting lost in the game and whatnot, or them connecting and playing with me. Like, that's why I spend the money, because it's just fun. Like, and that's what it's about. We want to have fun, and we want to see other people have fun with basketball video games. So yeah, people, connect with me on Parsec and play College Hoops 2K8 with me, please.
I mean, if you want to talk about stupidity and College Hoops 2K8, that's me and the chant creator. You got to take that away from me, man, because I will make the stupidest chants. Just spend time making the stupidest chants on that game. But again, that is the fun of that feature. And again, it shows you how deep that game was, that there's a chant creator in there, and you're not thinking, why did they do this? It's like, of course they did this, because the chants are a big part of college basketball. So it stands to reason that you can make your own. Yeah.
It's the little things like that.
Yeah.
That the old games are doing that was just awesome. And it's not just older games too. Sometimes the newer games are implementing awesome, mechanics like that and awesome customization options. Take MLB The Show 2020, for example. My brother and I are in, like 60 games into a season, both of us using different teams. One of the amazing customization options in that game is you can choose any music and have your player walk up to bat with that blaring from the arena. How amazing is that? And you can also like import music for like for Mark McGwire. I talked about this on another show. I have the song Big Gun play whenever he goes up to bat. Like I imported that. I put it on a thumb drive, put it into the video game system, and then assigned that song to Mark McGwire. And now when he goes up to bat, that song plays. You can assign music to the walk-ups to bat. You can assign music to when a home run, when somebody hits a home run, when they're rounding the bases, a certain song will play, all of that stuff. It's that type of stuff that keeps people on the games. It's those special touches. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's gotten lost a little bit in the newer basketball titles. Those special touches aren't there like they used to be.
It's funny how just something so small can have such an impact, and we do remember them, even if it's something like the replay editing in Live 09 and 10, or just something like you mentioned, being able to assign custom music in the show. It really does enhance the experience, because it's just that little extra detail that you think, oh, that's cool. And sometimes it can even make you overlook some of the quirkier moments of games, because you're just enjoying these little touches so much.
Right, 100%. But remember, that's also why we love modding, right?
Oh,
like the ability to, it's the same type of mindset. The reason why we like modding and being able to do all of this, this stuff with the PC versions of the games is because we like that extra customization, that special customization, that unique customization.
And of course, 2K11 is, as you said, just it's a classic. A lot of people's pick, like Street Volume 2, a lot of people's pick as the best game ever made, certainly in the sim genre, and it has a strong case, obviously. I still prefer the right stick dribbling of later games, naturally, but 2K11, I can go back and play that, and playing through the Jordan Challenge, yeah, 100%. And 2005 and 10 as backup choices, no, I definitely agree with that as well. Next up is Dante Campana, at Dante Campana on Twitter. I wouldn't have thought of NBA in the Zone 2, but since you posted it, he'll take that one. Rounding out the list, NBA Live 2004 for PlayStation 2. Yes, I prefer it over 2005. And NBA 2K14 for PlayStation 4. Well, I certainly agree with 2K14 for PlayStation 4. 2004 for PlayStation 2, which is the same as PC, of course without mods, which in this case is no issue since we're saying no mods. I love that game as well. I actually did play the 2004 on PS2 more than PC when it was new, because I got that version first. It came out before the PC version in Australia. And I started my Dynasty on PS2, so I ended up playing the PS2 version a lot and modding on PC. So I'm definitely all about that. And in the Zone 2, I haven't played as much of, but I do own and have played. Once again, three strong choices there.
NBA in the Zone 2, he mentions, because I mentioned it, on the tweet asking the question, I posted a highlight of a session between me and basketball video at B-Ball Video Games, and it's me with Chris Carr doing a spin move and then flying in for a dunk, and it just looked so cool in that game. The animations were so smooth for its time, etc. NBA in the Zone 2, one of my favorite basketball titles of all time. I still have fun playing it, so that's definitely a good choice. NBA Live 2004, you and I just revisited that actually recently, and yes, we played a mod, but you made note that the gameplay that we were playing was the default sliders and whatnot, and we had a blast, didn't we?
Absolutely.
So absolutely. It's also one of my brother's favorite games of all time. That's where my brother Mark really lit it up with Walter McCarty. That's one of the games where guys like Walter McCarty and Keith Van Horn, etc., were just completely unstoppable, and it made for so many funny video game moments. Definitely love NBA Live 2004. And then obviously 2K14, PS4. Andrew's thrilled that you mentioned that.
Definitely
wouldn't have been a year ago. Now he is now.
I would have respected. I would have respected it a year ago, but now I'm right there with you. Let's put it that way.
Right. He'd be there he would willingly get stranded on an island with you just to play it. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
Yeah. But no, NBA 2K14. Obviously, I'm very fond of the gameplay. I think that the game still has a lot of replayability because my career is still up and you can still play it. And just the presentation and overall gameplay definitely holds up, and I don't blame you at all.
Next up is D Zulu at Debo Khan on Twitter. Live 2005, KG's hop step dunk was beast. 2K13, despite no blocks at the rim, and 2K16. Again, 3 games that I definitely have a lot of fondness for. Live 2005, loved that. 2K13, played the hell out of that with my career, and yes, took advantage of no blocks at the rim. One of the few drawbacks of that game, of course. And 2K16, there's a few people that meant 2K16, spoilers, that, and you mentioned that, of course, and so many, we brought it up so many times, just such a strong entry in the series, 2K16 and 17. They were really hitting their stride with that.
How about those jump stop and drop step moves in NBA Live 2005 and in some of those mid-2000 games in general? I mean, absolutely dominant, and they're such a go-to. And when my brother Nick and I were playing Legends, we would just constantly abuse them.
Bit of cheese there. Bit of cheese in that move. Yeah.
A bit of cheese. Well, the thing is those games definitely had brick wall defense, right? So a lot of times if you're playing the computer on the harder level on those mid-2000s NBA Lives, in order to get by that brick wall defense, as you and I have experienced recently, you can try to spam the dribbling all you want, but you're just getting brick walled everywhere often. So what you do a lot of times to get by the computer is to use and abuse that jump stop mechanic that just gets you right by the defense, gets you right in the middle of the lane, and gives you a much better chance of scoring. And the same with the drop step. If you're in a pinch, and this happened when I was playing against Nate, actually on Live 2004. If he's in a pinch and he's sitting in the middle of the lane with a Michael Olowokandi or a Kevin Garnett or whatever, yes, it doesn't matter. Yes, even with Michael Olowokandi, even on the higher levels, you're in a pinch, you drop step and you throw it down. And you can see that actually in the NBA Live 2004 highlights video that I put up of me and Nate playing. So no, totally. On that. I can't say anything on NBA 2K13. I can't really say anything bad about 2K13 other than the lack of being able to block layups and dunks in that game. I think that's a great choice to bring to the island. I think the game is just so fun from a head-to-head standpoint, co-op standpoint, but then also from like a blacktop type gameplay standpoint because of the way they implemented those right stick mechanics. The shooting feels great. You can just pull off so many great highlights, quick spin moves to the baseline. The post game is just absolutely fantastic in NBA 2K13. Definitely don't blame you. And I already said why I would bring NBA 2K16 to the island earlier. I think it's just very deep. There's a lot of customization you can do with My League. They have all of those new classic teams that were added that year. So you have the new classic teams from 2000 and up that were added. The gameplay, there's a lot of customization you can do with the players having 4 different size ups you can assign, all the different animations that were added that can be assigned, etc. 2K16, no brainer, and I love all of his choices.
2K13, of course, with the Dream Team. That was a big deal at the time. And I think it speaks volumes that when it comes to 2K13, apart from the issue with no blocks at the rim, is that the thing that most people bring up as the negative of the game is that they didn't like Jay-Z's presentation or the soundtrack. And when your biggest complaints are that you're not really that fond of the front-end style or the soundtrack, the rest of the game is pretty damn good.
I will agree, though, that the Jay-Z soundtrack, I was not a fan of it. I was definitely more of a fan of 2K12, 2K11, 2K10. Those games seem to have a little bit more of the underground songs on them that really were unique for that game. So I will say that I wasn't a fan of the 2K13 soundtrack, but that definitely didn't ruin the experience for me.
One final point about Live 2005, of course, the Pro Hop came in 2004, and they also brought in sliders in 2004 as well, but they didn't have a slider for Pro Hop effectiveness. That had to wait till 2005. So 2004, it's even cheesier in 2004. But 2005, fantastic game, one of my favorites as well.
What's funny is, and I'm going to say this, and I'll say this with a straight face, I'll say this to anybody. The way dunks look off of your jump stop in NBA Live 2004 and NBA Live 2005 look better than what they look like on NBA 2K22 or since they implemented the new motion system in 2K18. They look absolutely awkward as hell in the newer games. But back even in, like you said, Live 2004, Live 2005, that hop step into a dunk animation just looks incredibly clean and feels awesome.
that button can also be used to make a pretty good step back. You can do that kind of Dwayne Wade step back on a jump shot if you hold back on the stick and hit the Pro Hop button. That's a move that I've been using more when I've gone back and played those games.
Yeah, Nate was doing that, actually. He did that, I believe, with Spreewell or Cassell, a couple times when we were playing live. Yeah, it looked really cool.
Next up, we have Trav at MidwestKing_100 on Twitter. Live 2000, Jordan Returns, 2K12, The Era Filters, and 2K16, Defense Matters. Once again, love all these choices. Live 2000, huge, getting Jordan into the game, getting the legends, really tipping off that historical content officially being in games. And it was just such a great all-around game as well. On PC, franchise mode, making its debut. The PC version was definitely the definitive version of Live 2000. Played that with my cousin, played through the franchise, the whole season in franchise with the Blazers and won the championship. Great memories of winning that championship early in the morning and going and microwaving the popcorn in celebration as we did. And yeah, 2K12 with those era filters, amazing. Like we said, Derek, having the no 3-point line for the 70s teams, something that they haven't done. And again, 2K16, classic too.
I mean, endless replayability. I mean, he has NBA 2K12 in there with the NBA's greatest mode, and then obviously being able to play seasons and franchises and whatnot, his exhibition play, his blacktop play, all of that stuff, just endless replayability with those games. NBA 2K16, we've already discussed the replayability aspect of that. So he has NBA Live 2000 from the PS1 gen, one of the strongest releases ever. Then he goes and chooses a game from the PS3, Xbox 360 generation, one of the strongest games in NBA 2K's series of releases. And then NBA 2K16, arguably, for a lot of people, the best game on the PS4 gen. So yeah, great choices.
I mentioned franchise mode in Live 2000, such a big step forward for the season experience to have multi-season, which they had multi-season in 99 PC, but you didn't have the rookie draft, the generated rookies, and proper free agency and everything else like that. So that was just a huge step forward. I know the franchise experience has gone so much further. 2K has taken it so much further, I should say, with what they've done. But at the time, Live was king, and what they did there was so revolutionary. But that being said, it dawned on me last year, Derek, and I mentioned this in a Way Back Wednesday, or it might have been a Way Back Wednesday, it might have been Friday 5, actually. But the end of franchise mode in Live 2000, because it's a 25-year franchise mode in Live 2000, we are almost at the end of that franchise mode in real life. And that's kind of mind-blowing.
It's kind of sad, too, right? Doesn't that age you?
Yeah.
Do you feel old now
yes,
for saying that?
I do, I really do.
Feel old. We've got to talk about this off the podcast. We can't bring this stuff up. It's depressing.
I know, but it's just funny that, like, when you played that, when you simmed into the future in Live 2000, you're like, the 2020 season, and you're like, wow, that just seems so futuristic. And now that's 2 years behind us. So, yeah, it's wild.
Me of those old movies that they made, like, back in, like, the 60s or 70s that were, like, they were called, like, the year 2000 or something. It's like flying cars.
We're all on the moon,
and, like, all of this. Like, yeah, you guys were wrong. Like, that's definitely not what ended up happening. They even have, like, I think it's it was a game that came out in the early 90s for Super Nintendo. It's like Baseball Simulator 2000 or something like that. Or like 2020 or something like that. And it's just like this full blown out baseball experience where it's actually robots playing or something like that. I have to look up the title, but it's like, yeah, that's not what happened. Like we're not watching robots play baseball on TV right now. So that's what made me think of. But no, yeah, it is wild to think that NBA Live 2000, if you did all 25 seasons, we're almost up to that point. That's pretty crazy.
I mean, on that note, Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball, which you mentioned before, set in the year 2031, we are closer to that than we are 1991 when the game came out. Again, making us feel old.
That's the second time Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball has been brought up today on the NLSC podcast. That's probably a record, and I actually don't feel bad about it.
So moving over to the NLSC Discord now, QB1120, Q in the forums, NBA Live 2005, one of the better live games out of the box, first game with a dunk contest, NBA Street Volume 2 for the arcade-style basketball, and then my third, to get some variety, would be Niketsu Street Basketball on NES, which is essentially River City Ransom meets basketball. They even have 3 hoops on each side like those old rock and jock b-ball jam shows on MTV. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that third one, I must admit, but Live 2005, once again, fantastic, and Street Volume 2, absolute classic as well, but yeah, that's interesting, an NES game, and one that's that like Bill Lambia's Combat Basketball, third mention, is a little bit different, kind of taking basketball in more of a fantasy direction.
Yeah, I never heard of that, but now I have to get it.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. I almost said to keep things interesting in my top 3 for the island, I almost brought up Michael Jordan's Chaos in the Windy City. Be like, hey, you know what? We have our arcade basketball game in NBA Jam OFE. We have our, NBA 2K17, our 5-on-5 sim, and then we have our adventure game. Like that would really mix it up. But then I decided that it wasn't a very good video game.
That is one of the where the hell do I go level designs in platformers. Platform hell.
Yeah, and that's just the full taking advantage of Michael Jordan's name. That's what that is.
Yeah, that's the best part of the game.
Yeah.
The cover.
I mean, he brought up Street Volume 2. We've already discussed that and why that has a lot of replayability. NBA Live 2005, obviously, is a popular choice. And one of my favorite players, actually, at the time on the cover, which a lot of people don't know about me, Carmelo Anthony. I've always loved Melo. And, I was a big fan of the Melo Nuggets with Iverson, etc. So, yeah, he was on the cover of Live 2005. I did have a question for you, actually, before we move on to the next response. Were there alternate covers for NBA Live 2005?
There were some international ones, yeah.
That's what I wanted to, yeah. Do you know what they were? Because I'm curious.
So those international covers, which I totally know off the top of my head, and I'm not looking at our wiki at the moment at all, NBA Live 2005, Tony Parker for France, and Pau Gasol for Spain. 2004 had Raul Lopez on the Spanish cover, which was also the trivia this week.
We should do a whole show on alternate covers because I find it fascinating. Like, I still can't get over that NBA Live 2002 alternate Michael Jordan cover.
From Japan, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Wizards Jordan cover, I think that looks absolutely awesome. I want that. But, no, great choices from Q. I'll have to try that NES game.
And finally, from the Discord, we have Per DXDO. I'm sorry, that's the best I can do for pronouncing that that screen name, but thank you for submitting your response. If I was stranded on an island with 3 basketball video games, the first I'd bring is NBA 2K13. 2K13 was the game that got me into buying 2K annually, and Create a Legend is one of my favorite all-time 2K game modes that hasn't come back since. The second game I'd take is NBA Jam 2010, a very simple but fun game to this day, many unlockable players, and great to play co-op. The third game would be NBA Street Volume 2, one of my favorite basketball video games of all time. So once again, some familiar games there. 2K13 was the one that really got me into the 2K series with the right-stick dribbling, obviously. I'd been warming up to it with 2K11 and 2K12, but then 2K13 added the right-stick dribbling, and I was right on board with 2K after that. Creating a legend, such a fantastic idea to be able to take a real NBA player into the career mode without any kind of modding, and it hasn't come back because it doesn't make money, unfortunately. Jam 2010 is very solid, very underrated. It was surpassed by On Fire Edition, but that doesn't make 2010... It's still a great game in its own right. And of course, once again, Street Volume 2, a popular choice for very obvious reasons.
He followed it up, too, in the chat about NBA Jam 2010. He did say that he believes that NBA Jam on Fire Edition is probably overall the better game. And with Road Trip, obviously, it puts it over the top mode-wise. I want to say that he said his favorite arcade basketball game edition ever was the boss battles that were in NBA Jam 2010. So I think that the boss battles alone put Jam 2010 over OFE for him.
I mean, that was very innovative, those boss battles. That really did change things up. As much as the classic campaign could be very repetitive and dry, as I mentioned on a previous show, the boss battles and the remix tour were a great idea. And the fact that they mixed those together for Road Trip and On Fire Edition was a great choice as well. But the boss battles, which didn't make it into On Fire Edition, unfortunately, because I think they were a great idea, but yeah, very innovative.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I was talking with somebody about NBA Jam on Fire Edition, and I was saying, once Andrew and I finished the Road Trip on Fire Edition, we could try to do the classic campaign on NBA Jam 2010. But unfortunately, upon second thought, I realized that NBA Jam 2010, you can't do co-op on the campaign mode, and that's a damn shame.
It's one of those oversights that a lot of games were making, that they figured that the campaign modes, no one's going to want to play these co-op.
It's 2-on-2. Like, why wouldn't somebody want... Like, how can you not make that co-op? How can you not make it so somebody else can jump on a controller and play it with you? It's 2-on-2.
It's a huge oversight. And then the lack of tag mode as well in 2010 is a bit of a drawback. I think they were really trying to recreate that original NBA Jam, and they forgot some of the innovations that came with Tournament Edition and Hang Time and some of the later ones. That's my theory.
I can't honestly say that it's an oversight. I think it's just like a design decision. Oversight makes me think, well, maybe we forgot, or maybe we didn't think of it, or something like that. Like, I don't think it's an oversight.
That's true. Yeah,
I think it's a poor design choice. It's a poor design decision, because you can't tell me that when these developers had these meetings, with the programmers and all of that stuff, or with the suits or whatever, that this didn't come up. Like, this had to come up as they were building the game. So yeah, I wouldn't even call it an oversight. I would call it just an incredibly poor design decision.
Design decision. Yeah, that's probably a better way of putting it. But fortunately, they corrected course with On Fire Edition. It's what made On Fire Edition such a great follow-up, such a great sequel. But 2010, it's still quite fun, and I do think it is underrated. Also, it was really hurt by the whole NBA Elite 11 debacle. How it was supposed to be packaged, a stripped down version was supposed to be packaged with NBA Elite 11, and the rest of it was going to be paid DLC. But when Elite 11 got cancelled and they released it as its own standalone game, people thought they were trying to release a free game for full price, but that wasn't really the case. Just the whole thing really overshadowed Jam 2010. But it is still a very solid game in its own right.
I mean, I have fun playing just play now games on it. It's enjoyable for that, but that is definitely not a good design choice for the campaign. But thank you for everybody. Thank you everybody who responded to the prompt. I'm loving putting out those questions every week, and I absolutely love the participation. So thank you.
I do too. It's been so fun going over your answers, and we've had some really fun topics, and that will continue. So stay tuned for those mailbag prompts each and every week. But with that being said, that has brought us to the end of episode number 416 of the NLSC Podcast. We thank you for tuning in to this week's show. Of course, the podcast comes out every week on the NLSC. You can also find us on all the podcatching apps and platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, just to name a few. And of course, you can tune in on our YouTube channel. And as we wrap up here, we want to remind you to follow us on social media. So, Derek, what are your socials?
You can reach me on Twitter, where I'm the most active, at D4384. I'm also at D43G. That's my gaming channel, where I'm uploading not only basketball video game gameplay, but also other games that I'm playing as well. I am over on YouTube as well, where I've started streaming again, D43, and I'm also on the NLSC as a team member, D43.
I, of course, am Andrew in the forum, and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. The NLSC is on Facebook and Twitter at the NLSC. We're on Instagram, NLSC Basketball. Our YouTube channel is NBA Live Series Center. And of course, give a look to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. But yes, that's all for this week, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.